Okay, hello everybody and welcome to the Festival of Computing, a unique collaboration between Plymouth University and Computing at School. And this session this afternoon is about NCCE Teach Computing and the Computer Hub programme. My name is Suzanne Cray and I'm one of the outreach managers for Computing at School, covering the Southwest region. So I'll be your host for this session. Today, I'm accompanied by Thomas, student ambassador, who's moderating the session and monitoring the question window. We're joined today by Mark Williams from the Truro Hub and Melanie Denig from the Exeter Hub. And I'll tell you more about those, our speakers, when we get started. But first of all, just in terms of housekeeping, during the session, please use the chat window, usually on the right-hand side of your screen, to ask questions. You might need to click on the chat icon to open it. Our student ambassador will be making a note of questions posed there, and these will be answered, if time allows, at the end of the session. As a reminder, all attendees are in listen-only mode. A copy of today's slides will be available to download from the CAS website later today or early next week, and you'll be emailed a link to that. Finally, the hashtag for this event is hashtag CASPLIM21. Please do tweet about the sessions, either during the session or afterwards, that you're attending through the day. So our speakers today are Mark from the Truro and Penwith Computing Hub in Cornwall, based at Truro and Penwith College, and Melanie from the Exeter Computing Hub, based at Exeter Maths School. A little bit about them both. Mark entered teaching in 1999 upon completing an undergraduate degree in mechanical engineering and design, and he gained a secondary PGCE in IT. Mark has taught IT, DT, computing, engineering and maths up to Key Stage 5. Mark's keen interest in the transition between key stages of pupils and students in computing IT has led him to roles of both primary and post-16 liaison for the secondary schools he worked in. Mark is currently the primary lead for the NCCE Computing Hub that covers Cornwall, Plymouth and Torridge, and also lectures in computer science at Truro and Penwith College. Melanie works at the Exeter Maths School and as lead teacher of computer science and is the Computing Hub secondary lead. A former researcher and software engineer, in each of her last teaching positions, Melanie led the development of computer science. Having secured her degree in computer science at UCL in the 90s, Melanie is aware of gender bias within this field and is determined to support all students, female and male, to discover a love of computational thinking and its applications. So without further ado, I'll hand over to Mark and Melanie for your presentations. Thank you.
Thanks, Suzanne. I'll kick things off. Welcome, everyone. As Suzanne said there, I'm based in the hub that covers Cornwall, Torridge and Plymouth, and was originally down to give this talk, but there's been some different coordination and restructuring for the summer term in the way the courses will be delivered due to the current conditions. And so our hub now will be focusing primarily on the delivery of the primary side of this CPD. So Melanie thankfully has stepped in because if you get involved with the secondary programme going forward in terms of CPD in the summer term, you're more likely to come across Melanie than you are me. So it seems a good opportunity there for Melanie to introduce herself and the work that takes place through the Teach Computing programme at the secondary level. But just to keep in mind, whatever Melanie talks about today goes for Exeter Hub, it goes for us down in Cornwall, it goes for the hub that's also based in Taunton. So we all sing from the same sheet, so don't worry about contacting the wrong hub either. We'll all direct you to the right person. But I will stop there, which is quite good because I've got a cold in celebration of returning back to the classroom next week, and I'll hand you over to Melanie.
Right, thank you very much, Mark. That was really generous. Can everybody hear me? Let me know in the chat if there are any technical issues, please. That is sort of, and Mark, if you could give me a little bit feedback if you keep your video on, that'd be great, thank you. So importantly, so if any tech failures occur, please let me know. And secondly, a big thank you to Suzanne for the introduction and the opportunity, and thank you to Mark for your generous introduction there. So I would like to get some activity for this talk. So can I just have a quick yes or no, for have you engaged with the National Centre for Computing Education, just as a feel, you know, who my audience is here today. Yes, no, yes, no. Thank you very much. Just a quick sort of gauge, yes, no, be really helpful. Thank you very much. Thank you. Little, yeah, super. This is excellent. Really, really good. Thank you very much. Super. That gives me a good idea. So it seems that I don't need to promote get engaged, please, because you've already at least got a foot or a hand or maybe just a little finger in with our work, right? So the purpose of today is to illustrate what we are achieving, but also what we have achieved already. It's much more authentic for me to tell you what we're capable of doing if I'm able to demonstrate what we have already done. And that is my number one objective here, to really authentically represent what we can do by working with you and working with each other, like Mark and Suzanne have already outlined. What is our potential? So hence I've named this talk a celebration of success, because I feel we've come so far already and I want to show you where we can go. So as you know, oops, I'm so sorry.
Oh yeah, no, I'm not teaching, I'm in a webinar.
Oh,
yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's fine.
Hello, could you please mute yourself just while we're in the call?
With all the laptops we have to carry to school,
Hello?
Yeah.
it takes time to be able to rebuild other trolleys,
Yeah,
I'm just
including seven.
going unplugged away for a bit. Okay.
if somebody could maybe in the chat do me the favor of maybe put it in the chat that
So Emma's already sent.
Oh, I've muted that person now, so
thank you
feel
very
free
much
to continue.
Yes, thank you. So to go back to where I stopped, so quick introduction again of who I am, who we are. I think Mark and Susanna have done a good job to explain the NCCE, a little bit of context of where I'm based. So I work at Exeter Mathematics School. We are one of two specialist math sixth forms. So whilst I currently in my everyday work deliver to sixth form, in the past, like Suzanne kindly mentioned, I have been leading departments of full secondary schools from throughout all key stages. So this is sort of who we are in Exeter. And what do? Well, what we do is we listen to our community, we listen to the teachers in our community, and we from then provide them with what they need. We have all the resources available, and we can then move on to support you as teachers in the classroom and continue your journey to bring your departments to success by providing a network. And this network is really, really well demonstrated by this map that you see here. So these are all the CAS communities, all the computing at school communities that currently operate within the Southwest. And they really are your best starting point to grow both your own practice and that of your colleagues. Now, as we can see, there are quite a few dotted around, and thank you for Suzanne for making sure to really show me where they all are, because in order to come back to this idea of celebrating the success of where we are already, I want to go back in time. So if I go to here, so in 2012, this little red dot, well, maybe I made it a bit too big. That was me in Torbay. So in 2012, in Torbay, I set up my first computing at school community. And at the same time, shout out to the Spires. This is a school that I work very closely with and I still work with today. So back then in 2012, I supported the Spires in their work, and they found it very challenging to transition to computer science. As I said, I still work with them to this day, and now their biggest problem is within school difference. So their progress at the moment is so healthy that there is a question now, you know, how can we keep that in line with the rest of our school? So just one little journey, one little stepping stone on that journey of success. Now, the other dot here at the same time, that is a big shout out to Steve, who was starting to work as another CAS community in Plymouth. And there is big shout out. I'm not sure if he's here today. Steve's free now, and we both became master teachers. And Steve then started working with Shirley. Maybe Shirley is in the audience, I don't know. Started working with Shirley to build the community, which we now have the pleasure to enjoy in Plymouth. So from Plymouth University and with the resources they had available, they grew what was happening in computer science across all of the Southwest. So thank you very much for all of those opportunities. So by 2016 then, from Plymouth, master teachers from computing at school were trained up, and they grew from 2 to 12. So just as a measure of success in 2012, there was 2 of us, there was Steve and there was myself. And in 2016, there was 12. So without any resources, please, we must remember that back then we weren't paid for our role as master teachers. It was all on voluntary basis. And on these very minimal resources, we managed to grow what was happening. So after 2016, around 2017, there was the promise of 84 million being supplied from the government into computer science. And people like myself and Mark, of course, we were really excited because we could see how much we achieved already. And the prospect of actually being given not only attention, but for once actually real resources, made us confident that we could now really continue and grow the success. And Mark, I don't know if you want to pitch in, but maybe I see you nodding there, so maybe you want to say what that moment was for you.
Oh, it's massive, isn't it? It's any chance to grow the subject and instill confidence as well in the rest of the community.
Yes, absolutely.
The right thing to do is just massively important.
Yes, absolutely. Confidence, I will start speaking about that in a bit. So, so this is where we were. And then in 2018, we had 3 hubs in the Southwest. The 3 hubs that Mark already mentioned. So there is Somerset, there is us in Exeter, and Mark, of course, yourself in Truro. So please, get in touch with your local hub, or like Mark pointed out, you can get in touch with any of the hubs and they will be able to guide you into the right direction for your needs, because every hub knows how to listen to your needs. Every hub has the means to provide you with what you need. So please get in touch with us. So 2018, 3 hubs in the Southwest. And big drum roll. I wish I had a drum roll because this one is a particular one. So by 2020, we had approximately 430 engaged with the National Centre of Computing Education. And whilst we're, of course, mainly focusing in our role of promoting more teachers to engage with us, we rarely have the opportunity to celebrate what we've already achieved. So 430 teachers on courses provided by us is a huge, huge, huge success. It means that we have engaged with your colleagues, obviously in some extent with you people. I don't know how many are in the meeting right now. How many do we have in the meeting right now? Maybe 10 we had earlier, I think. Somebody tell me in the message.
I believe we have 11 participants.
Okay, so we've got 11 participants right now. So, and I want to remind each and every single one of you, there are others like you, not just the 10 you have in this meeting right now. And the way to connect with each other is through your hub or through your local computing at school community, and that will allow you to grow. So you've already gained some knowledge, because if you didn't have the knowledge, you wouldn't be here right now. I don't think you would be here if you wouldn't already have the desire to grow the subject. And I encourage you to continue this journey by continue checking in with your hub. What are the new courses? It's a rapidly, very agile, rapidly changing, very agile body who will react to new arising needs. So just because you have checked out the courses, maybe 3 months ago, there will be new courses on offer now, because the NCCE has proven to be very responsive to the needs of its audience. Mark already mentioned how times of COVID created a challenge, because clearly a year ago we had a lot of people booked onto our face-to-face courses who had to rapidly transform into remote courses. In Exeter, for our secondary courses, we did the first few courses, if you like, by ourselves. So we were given the autonomy to run those face-to-face courses as remote courses. And that is something that needs to be acknowledged as a very, very positive move, because not every organization has the autonomy to respond to its audience. But we were given this opportunity by the NCCE so we could continue our work. In good time then, we were provided with materials to run remote courses, and these materials are now in place. And whilst we're looking forward to, of course, go back to 100% face-to-face courses, we also have remote courses in place that you can book onto. Right, so moving on. Oops, I think I went too fast. Apologies, with all my excitement of our successes. Right, teach computing. So having celebrated the history and where we are at right now, I now want to really be talking about the next steps. I feel that everybody here has some idea of the work, and there are probably a lot of you who have engaged in the courses. Maybe you've engaged in the schemes of work that are being published, but you have engaged. Now, please continue that engagement, because the subject is in itself rapidly changing. Lockdown has given us new problems that we aim to solve, so we can continue to help you with new problems. So just because you've been on a course, please don't make that the end of the journey, because it is CPD that we seek. It's continuous professional development. Encourage your colleagues to sign up, because the bigger you understand the understanding of computer sciences within your school community, the bigger your success will be for your department. Just to illustrate that with a small little example, a lot of us may find themselves within their schools literally in a corner, or maybe even a hut on the school premises. Here is the computer science department. Nobody really understands what they're doing, but it's all a bit geeky and weird. And our senior leaders, they often struggle with our subject, because they often feel our content is very difficult to access. That is a real problem, because this perception permeates through the school community. So the school community will provide, if you like, a field that generates this idea of computer science being only accessible to some and not to all. Suzanne already kindly pointed out that I am a great advocate of, or want to be a great advocate of, inclusion in computer science. But we can only be inclusive as a subject if we open ourselves up to everybody, if we make it accessible. And knowledge allows access. So if you have a supply teacher, if you have an NQT teacher within your school, why not suggest to them to go onto our courses, which will be fully funded for NQTs. They will be fully funded for trainee teachers. They will be fully funded for supply teachers or those colleagues who aim to return to teaching after having had some time out. By having that conversation, you're opening the doors to computer science, to non-subject specialists. This will be good for the subject in general, but more importantly, it will foster a field where suddenly computer science is no longer a subject only for the select few, but it's a subject for everybody. So what I did in one of my schools, in fact, back in Torbay, I had a beautiful, very, very well resourced lab. Lots of, just waiting for, if somebody could maybe mute.
I've muted
thank you.
Kevin, yes.
Thank you very much. Seems so rude, doesn't it, but necessary. Right, so in Torbay, this beautiful lab that I had, it was a huge space, it was a fantastic room, but it was in the corner of the building, hardly anybody ever walked by. It was very, very secluded. So I made sure that I could move rooms. So I moved from this beautiful space to a classroom half the size, and everybody thought I was mad, but where I moved to was to a room that had windows going into a main corridor of the school. So everybody, at least once a day, walked past my room and could look through the windows what was going on in that room. And they could see engaged students practicing computer science within unplugged activities. They had books just like they would have in any other subject, and they got an insight that this subject is valuable, this subject gives value to students, and with that my numbers grew, the understanding across the whole school grew. So whilst not everybody is able to move rooms like I was able to do, everybody can encourage colleagues to go onto our courses. It also, of course, removes that fear that sometimes is present in staff rooms. I'm not sure if that is everywhere the case, but I do recall times when towards the end of the year, when everybody was waiting for the timetable for the following year, there was this fear that somebody may, oh, I hope I'm not under, because maybe I'm going to be told to help Melanie with computer science. So that fear of computer science, we can only remove by giving people the knowledge. So please give your colleagues the opportunity to go onto the courses. And of course, needless to say, the funding that your school will be given that can feed back into your department. So any interest that you may have now, please take that to your hub, email your hub and say, what is that about non-specialist teachers becoming computer science teachers? And they will be able to give you the answer. Right. So after hopefully having given you an idea of the value of encouraging colleagues to continue with the courses, or to start the courses, I should say. Now I want to be talking about how you can best embed the knowledge that you have gained. So I was a bit hesitant to display the quotes that I'm seeing here on the screen, because obviously they are very kind quotes about us and sometimes mentioning me. But I think there is value in you hearing some of the comments of our school community. So I just want to give you 10 seconds just to get a bit of an idea of this slide. So the purpose of this slide, like it says, it's embedding the knowledge. You go onto a course, you learn something, but how do you then apply that? How do you then use that as that seed for growth of not just you as a practitioner, but growth for your department, growth for your students? So the first quote from Joe in Torquay refers to some booster sessions I recently ran for their year 11s. As I said, I've been working with Aspire since 2012, and we continue our conversation about our subject and individual departments. And clearly lockdown has presented challenges, and there was, how do we keep students engaged? So we came up with a series of booster sessions for bespoke for two schools, the Spires in Torquay, but also St. Peter's in Exeter. They were also invited to make sure that the year 11 students during lockdown still saw value in our subject. So that is what Joe is reporting back there. And we had amazing attendance. The last session was during the half term just gone, and we had a full house during half term. So there was real impact in terms of student engagement. There was a real embedding of computer science for the students. The second quote is from Kat at St. Peter's. And like she says there in this quote, for about 2 years, we've been working with each other. She has particular challenges because, like most of us, she's in a very small department with increasing pressures. And we've been working together, seeing, which are the barriers for her and how can we grow her department. And that continues. So it's bespoke conversations that we have. And lastly, Mark, the way he's embedded the knowledge from NCCE. Well, he's come to the courses as an NQT, and he's now head of department. So this is the kind of journey that we really are particularly proud of. Not only is Mark now head of department at his school, but he's also one of our facilitators. So this is the kind of journey that I have seen and that I want to see in the future. So not only attendance, not just, we're not here to count the bums on seats. We're here to see growth. So please, I urge you all, join us, on that journey, engage with us, to keep talking to us and tell us what you need, and we can come up with a plan for you. So just at this point, to really bring us back to the vision that the NCCE has for all students here in this country. I'm just going to give you a moment to pause because I do think it's important to come back to that. Some of you, I'm sure, recognize that there is an accent in my speech. So I'm German by birth. I did study in London, like Suzanne said. I spent some time in my professional life overseas. So I was, for some time, I was in the States and then in Canada, returned here. And I have still connections to those places. So I'm pretty well connected, clearly, with Germany, the States and Canada. And certainly within Europe, our students actually have been getting a pretty good deal. It is astounding how the infrastructure in France and in Germany just wasn't in place. Not like we've had it here. The infrastructure for IT for our students was not in place. So we're very, very lucky to have the infrastructure in schools. What we don't have is the infrastructure in the educational path for our students to become creators of tech. So whilst the tech is pretty well provided for within its limits, of course, and I'm sure there's some unfortunate stories where students do suffer because the tech resources aren't as we want them to be. I acknowledge that, don't get me wrong. But I do think we have some really good foundations. What we don't have enough students currently who walk the path towards a very, very secure career in tech. It's only a select few who are currently walking that path of success. It tends to be a particular, just one layer of our society. It's those children who will end up as creators of tech. And that really needs to change. It's not fair. It's not fair that not every year 7 grows up with the ability to program in Python. They're capable to do it. They're more than capable. It's not fair that some primary students lose out on experiencing how to program this robot. Most of them will have access to tech, but they currently do not have access to become creators of tech. And it's not fair. It's not fair for them not to enjoy that success. They can watch other people succeed, but they don't take part in that success. So we need to engage in that process. I'm aware of time, and whilst I have more slides, I feel that there are hopefully some questions that we now can respond to, Mark and myself, maybe some added comments from Mark or Suzanne, because I feel this quote is a good moment to remind us why we have traveled this journey of success that I celebrated at the beginning of my talk, and why I urge you to encourage others to join us. Oops, and even my light has gone off now automatically in my room. Right, I feel I want to open up the questions. Suzanne, if that is okay with you. Mark, any more comments from you?
No, I get what I'm interested to find out is from those of you that are in the room that have engaged with the program before. How many have gone on to sort of promote it to other people in their schools? Whether, as Melanie rightfully said, it now covers supply teachers can be fully funded on this, trainees. So I'm just interested here if you've been spreading the word yourselves, or if there's anything you'd like to feed back to us about your experiences.
Yes, that'd be really useful to hear that in the chat, because of course we all want to grow the subject. And if you suddenly also, I mean, from a very pragmatic point of view, if you succeed with your journey that you've just started, you have engaged. If you succeed, you will experience growth in numbers. So 1 year suddenly, you may grow your department from 8 students for GCSE, you have 15, and the next year it's 20. So suddenly you no longer have the capacity. You will need to have teachers within your school community who can help you deliver the subject. And you can't expect them to go onto a course 4 weeks before they start teaching your subject. So you do need to give them time. So it's a very, very useful thing to think about. You know, you started this to grow your department, but with growth comes more need. I'm just reading the chat here. And
just while Melanie's reading that, just which is a great story, by the way. Thanks, Grace. The sort of thing I like to promote, because as you would have heard from my bio at the start from Suzanne, I entered teaching IT then into computer science as what you'd class a non-specialist, because my background was very much mechanical engineering. And that's why that's one of the reasons I'm so passionate about this program, is because my career started off as a non-specialist, if you like, in computer science. And it is possible to get the support, to get the help, to get you into the position, and colleagues you've got in your school to get to the position to confidently teach. I mean, I teach on the undergraduate now, teaching software development, and that's as a non-specialist. So I'm very passionate about what the NCCE's got to offer on this, and I just think it's a great program. And what Melanie mentioned there about the increasing diversity, it's such a, so the more we can do to promote computer science as a subject for everyone and open to everyone, I just think it's a wonderful opportunity.
Yes, thank you, Mark. Yeah, and it may be a good moment to add that. So I studied computer science. I am a computer scientist. I worked in industry as a software developer. However, whilst I often hear from colleagues, oh, it's easy for you because you are a computer scientist. Well, you'd be surprised, you know, how much legwork I need to do in order to communicate what I know as a professional to students. So as a non-specialist, you will experience the journey of what's required for your level, whether that is primary or whether that is secondary. Well, for me, it was all upside down, because I had to, yes, of course, I've got computer science expertise, knowledge and understanding, but how to, you know, filter out the unnecessary from the necessary bits, you know, how to make sure not to confuse students with stuff they generally do not need.
That's so important.
Yes, yes.
That's so important. And I think sorry to jump in there, Melanie, but I'll just read what Gary has said in the chat there, that trying to persuade others, especially those that are experienced, it's not the knowledge so much you might need help, and it's how to teach that knowledge is. And I found that myself. I self-taught myself so much stuff, but then I come to teaching because I think, oh my God, what do I do? You know, so
yes,
I think it's really important what you're saying.
Yes, so like most of us, I even to this day, I'm the only full-time computer scientist here. Whilst we are a department of 5, the other 4, they either also teach physics or they also teach mathematics. So, and this has been pretty much the picture in all of my previous departments. I would have 1 or 2 permanent members of staff, and the rest would feed from other departments. And you're so right, Mark. I do remember, again, in this summer term when new timetables were coming out and everybody was sort of trying to hide from me whenever I would enter. And it was a very, very experienced chemistry teacher who was in her last year of teaching, who got the golden ticket to teach computer science that year. For me, it was the golden ticket. For her, of course, it was very much the opposite. And so I had a few initial meetings and I reassured her that she will be absolutely fine. I had the resources in place. And with her support, we drove Key Stage 3 to an increase in uptake because of her expertise as a teacher.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So all of the resources were in place, just like the resources from the NCCE are in place for you. And her expertise made it just perfect. So if she's out there enjoying her retirement, she won't be here right now, but she certainly deserves it. She did a brilliant job. I'm aware of time.
I've just seen this question pop through.
Yes.
Is it possible to have the courses I've already completed on FutureLearn count towards CS Accelerator?
Right. Okay. You please get in touch with your hub. I'm sorry to be so hand-wavy. The reason why I decided I'm not going to say anything about Accelerator is because we, as I said, we are in a very, very responsive, rapidly changing environment. So please get clarification from your hub, because we offer so much. So I know what I can tell you, not any course on Future Learn, but there may be there's a difference between primary and secondary. So please get in touch with your hub.
It's definitely possible, depending on the course. But like as Melanie says, speak to your hub directly.
Yes.
Depending on what courses they are, they can.
Absolutely, yes. And in response to feedback, the NCCE has changed and is changing. So we do not operate in the same way as we did when we first started, which is the right thing to do. People may call us fickle, I call it agile. So, and this is, agile development came out of Silicon Valley. And no matter what we think of their character, no matter what we think of the amount of money they make, or whether that's fair, but they're not stupid. So, so it can't be a terrible approach. So please contact your hub. Sorry to impinge on your time there, Suzanne. Suzanne.
No, that's fine. Thank you both so much. Clearly, there is so much experience and information that can be gained from you guys, and both for experienced teachers and for teachers that are new to the subject as well, maybe non-specialist or newly leading a department. So there's a lot to be gaining from that, but also sorry, I was just looking at that chat. There's a lot of really good comments that have come through as well on the chat. So really good things to hear about. But the nice thing to hear is that you are actually responding to things that are changing in the environment now. So, we're all working together, both Computing at School, NCCE, the computing hubs, the whole thing is providing a sort of holistic solution really to what you guys, the secondary teachers out there, are needing. So that's really important.
Just wanted to let you know that Gary put a question in the chat. He says that he's interested to hear the discussions with St. Peter's about options.
Thank you very much. Yes. So to put this in context, so Gary, what was really interesting, we actually made contact, like Kat said in the comment, through an outreach that we ran before we became a hub. So it was an existing relationship, and it just goes to show it's the relationships that really are the power of a hub. A hub already has, connected with schools generally, so we understand the needs. So St. Peter's, so we ran a competition or helped them to facilitate a competition in their school, and this is how the conversation started. And you're absolutely right. Some of the challenges that St. Peter's had was to balance the priorities between BTEC and computer science. So it's difficult. That is a really, really difficult call. And the NCCE is keen to support BTECs in the future as well. We don't know what capacity there will be, but we're certain there's an interest. Please, again, your hub will help you. Get in touch, and I can continue that conversation. I'm going to pop my email. In fact, Suzanne, if I can answer the next question, could you pop my email into the chat?
We are going to have to wrap up now, actually, because we've got to finish up and ready for the next one.
I'm going to pop my email here.
But what we can do is include any contact details, if you can pop it in there. And when we share the slides as well, we can pop that on.
Yes. Finally, I'm so sorry, but Gary, also, can I just illustrate then what happened? Because we also have contact with the Spires, and the Spires has more experience with BTEC than I do. These two schools are now working with each other. And the CAS communities, are good network communities. So please get in touch, and I can expand on that work with you.
I won't take long, Suzanne, but the one last thing I want to add to that, because I teach a lot of level 3 BTEC. The BTECs are it's not that the content's harder so much, It's the way they accept assessments. It's as Grace said there, it's very literacy heavy now, BTEC. So that's So just
please get in touch with either of us, and we can point you in the right direction. Thank you.
I believe that's all the questions.
Thank you.